Good. Thank you very much. So it's a deal. You do a really good job in the next 58 minutes. We'll finish early. Champagne is just outside the door. We'll get the first go. Because everything's run out today. We'll be the first one. So let's just be selfish and make sure we do better than anyone else. That's the deal. But the quid pro quo is I want you to be active participants. I actually hate rooms where seats are in rows. It drives me absolutely crazy because you can't talk to anybody and all you're doing is focusing on the person at the front. This is my favourite room. I know it's all breeze blocks, but hey, at least we've got round tables. So we'll make use of that as we go. So let's start immediately and make use of it. Can you just find someone that you haven't spoken to today? It may be the person right next to you. Just stand up, walk over to them and say, "Hey, my name is..." What I thought was great today, what I thought wasn't so great today. Just share your experience of the conference. It's going to take about a minute and a half. You do it for 30 seconds, they do it for 30 seconds. Off you go. Stand up, move around. It's always good. Always good. That's pretty useless. This is 3:25. Okay. Thank you. And if anyone says after this session, what was the highlight of the session? They say, what? Right at the beginning, I got a chance to talk to Kathy Moore. I'll murder you. All right? A second little thing, there's a copy of the ASTD book on talent management, which I wrote a chapter in. I'll give this copy to the person who, well, in my humble opinion, makes the best contribution to today. That doesn't mean hogging or barging people out the way. It means the kind of best contribution to today. So this book is up for grabs. It will go to somebody. So 2 encouragements. Now, why are we talking about this subject? 2 reasons. There's a bit of kind of naked selfishness in this session. I want us as learning professionals to start thinking about learning for us learning professionals. And there are 2 reasons why I wanted to do this session. The first one was that I was running a program in the US which had loads of people, and they all cancelled. Not when they found out who was leading it, but they all cancelled in the couple of weeks leading up. When we phoned round, the reason was that none of them wanted to put themselves forward to spend money on themselves to go to a self-development program, which is what it was. It was about learning leaders. And they were terrified of going to their boss and saying, "Can you spend $1,000 on me? Can you spend $1,000 on my department?" And the second one is that I work with lots and lots of different training groups around the world. And often the last people who ever get a look in are the learning people. Because they feel it's self-indulgent, they feel it's not appropriate, they feel it's kind of wrong that we grab stuff for ourselves. So it's all about doing it out there, which is true. But I just want to spend 1 hour of your life thinking of the ways in which you can create a really dynamic learning department that learns, that isn't going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. And I think you can do it. And I have this very simple but profound belief that if you work with a whole bunch of bored people who feel they're gradually getting out of date, they don't really know what's going on, they're not in tune, they do their job, you ain't going to be running a successful learning department. If you're working with a bunch of people who feel engaged, who exchange, who actually feel part of a really smart community, and I don't care whether that's only 3 of you, it still is hugely more powerful than 3 individuals who feel that no one really cares about them and they just go through the motions. So I think there is method in my madness. It may be selfish, but it also leads to much more productive work. And how you should be. There's Chris Bones this morning talked about corporate learning departments. They're either quick or they're dead. And he was kind of emphasizing the dead side rather than the quick side. I'm emphasizing the quick side. I think you can be quick. I think you can be sharp. I think you can do really good things. But you need to take some time and spend it on yourselves. And that's what this session is about. Self-indulgence. Maybe. Good learning practice. Yes. Modeling a learning environment. Yes. Okay? So that's what it's about. And this is the agenda. 4 simple things, and you're going to do this. I'm not going to do it. I can talk at you. I can give you every single answer to every one of those in 20 minutes, and you'll be bored to tears and you won't remember anything. We're not going to do that. You're going to do this. So technology is always an issue, should always be an issue. And you cannot run an operation where there's the techie person who everyone doesn't understand what on earth, usually a he says, who's got the latest gadgets and everyone else just gets on and does it. Or you're railroaded by corporate IT that comes in with a steamroller and says, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. Mostly this is what you can't do, this is what you may be able to do in 3 years' time when we get round to it. So there's a whole issue about being informed, being savvy, canny about technology. Second is about how do you build development opportunities where the department is not going to have big investment. It's maybe going to get smaller rather than larger. Where the budget isn't going to double, it maybe will stay the same or decrease. So how do you build really exciting, continuing development opportunities? And how do you create an organization that actually does research, feels empowered, it's got self-development? And then once you've got all of that, how do you stop it from falling apart 3 weeks later? So simple, 4 things. I reckon you can do that, and I reckon we can do it in an hour, but you prove me right rather than prove me wrong. Okay, so technology. We'll start with technology. This is one of the big problems, that technology is all one way. It's about people telling you from the center, this is what you've got to do, this is the way it is, and it's not about sharing, debating, getting engaged. I think that if you're going to have a successful position on technology, a successful position on managing technology in your operation, you've got to get rid of that old logo, the old telecoms logo. We're great, we know it all at the center, we tell you what's being done. And unfortunately, mostly you're out here somewhere being told, and that is the heart and center in the IT department, which is kind of by the time the message gets here, it's getting thinner and thinner, and the investment's getting thinner and thinner and thinner. That's the wrong message. That's not what you do. Okay, so tables. Is everyone at least 2? If you maybe want to move so there's more of you than 2 on a table, give me some strategies for how you keep up to date with technology. You think about technology intelligently. You have a plan. You have a scheme. You're savvy. So that if anyone says anything about technology, you can respond in an intelligent way. Okay, so go. You've got about 3 minutes. That's all we need. 3 minutes on technology. Then we'll come back to that. All right. We'll stop you there. And let's just get some ideas from the room. Dealing with technology. Can we go right to the table at the back? They're the most long-suffering table, and they thought if they sat right at the back, there's no way I'd ever make my way this far. So they're absolutely safe. You did. Go on then. Give us some of it.
One piece of it was browse the internet, just be aware of technology that's out there.
Yeah.
Just general industry awareness.
Yep. How much does that cost? Zero. Just.
So that she does it anyway in her lunch hours.
Yeah. But often people do that on their own, and you do it on your own, you do it on your own, you do it on your own. Whereas if you shared the bookmarks, if you just had a folder with technology blogs, interesting sites, and just added to it, and it was communal, it not just doubles the value or trebles the value, it makes the value go up 10 times. Because it also means that more than one of you will see something, you have a conversation. So exactly, the internet is free, it's there. There's no reason why you can't look at it. Most places you're allowed to. Not all places you're allowed to. Most places you're allowed to. Go on, next one.
Building relationships and engaging internal contacts.
Yeah.
So when you do find a piece of technology that you want to use,
Yeah.
you've got halfway to at least put it and take a look at it.
Yeah.
IT, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the secrets about IT people is they love talking about IT. I bet you didn't know that. One of the ways you can make friends, win friends and influence people is to invite them in and say, could you I know it's only a prototype stage, but we've got a group of people who really enjoy just seeing what you've come up with. Hey, they love you for that. They will come in and they'll do it, guaranteed. But it also gives you some insights into where their brains are thinking, and it just helps you build friends, because friends in IT are friends in need, friends indeed. And building a mass of enemies, seeing IT as the people you hate, is not a great way of making progress. So that is a good way of building those bridges into IT. And it may not even be directly relevant for you, but it helps you understand the environment that they're trying to get towards, however long it's going to take. Go on, next one.
How long-term strategy plan?
Yes. Yes. Think about, so if for example, if you're interested in social learning, don't just say tomorrow we're going to launch Twitter internally and bloggers and wikis and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. That's not a plan. That's a stupidity, because you're smashed down security issues. There's going to be IP issues, etc. Have a plan. Think about what the stages might be to move towards that. Have the plan maybe over 2 years. Go and talk to your IT people and say what's possible and what isn't possible. And I learnt this great word. This is the best word I ever learnt in IT. Pilot. It's fantastic. Don't say we're going to roll this out. Say we just want 50 people to pilot. And people say, well, that's all right. That's harmless. And if it's good and successful, you'll have something that will light a fire, and they won't be able to stop it. No one will be able to stop it. Pilot. It's safe, offline, sometimes outside the firewall. Just want a small group. Just want to test this. Just want a pilot. Remember that. It's a great, great word. Anything else?
Being aware of your customers' needs.
Yes.
And ensuring relevance of the technology to diverse audiences.
Yes, exactly. So what have they got? How do they face the world technologically? If what you're offering completely clashes with what they're dealing with, it's pointless developing an iPhone app when everyone's got Blackberries. And that's a silly thing, but these things happen. You get obsessed with the idea, we must have an iPhone app, to hell with the fact that no one can actually use it. So work out how their world is changing, how they're interfacing with technology, how you can ride on the back of it rather than confronting it or trying to lead it. Often with technology, it's not a good idea to be at the leading edge. It's sometimes good to be one back from corporate IT, but see where the gaps are, see where the opportunities are that further your learning vision, but don't cost a huge amount of money, but nevertheless takes it forward. So all great ideas. And if you add all that together, the cost is nothing. Okay? You've got a whole technology strategy at the cost of nothing. And how many people have told me, well, we just can't afford to have, it's just we haven't got the budget to... You don't need a budget to have the strategy. You need a budget to implement. But you can't implement anything with no strategy. Otherwise, it's just random. Then it just becomes techie for the sake of it. And that's stupid. That doesn't get you anywhere. What about this table? Did you get anything really great on top of what they said? Come and demolish what they said with some great, great ideas.
We always put an ideas bid in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that might excite us.
Yes.
But actually getting people to focus around what's going to be the benefits to the business, to us,
Yes.
to do that. So everyone puts a bids in,
Yes.
and we all sort of vote on.
Yes.
Oh, that'll be a really good one, and we could all do bits and pieces.
Yes.
Of that, sort of collectively
Yes.
sort of share the vote
Yes.
together, and then sort of look at the plans and so on like that.
Yes. I think another brilliant ruse is to have a small amount of money for innovation. That one of the things I say to people is you can give away your whole learning budget. It doesn't actually matter because most of it you're just caretaking anyway. You haven't got very little. You think, oh, I've got 50 million. I had a £54 million budget in the BBC. Whoa, that was really important. What I actually controlled was pathetic in comparison. I can give away 54 million but retain 100,000. That was mine. So small amounts of money for innovation. And if you can argue for that, and innovation can be in very small, £2,000 here, maybe even £500 there. But if you've got nothing, then you can't even spend £500. So retain that money and have a great way of deciding how to spend it. I think that's absolutely great and brilliant. And you can usually argue for small amounts like that in a pot. But start with the business need, not exciting technology. It looks really great. So I think we should buy 8 of those. And it's not there's a business issue. I think this might solve it. So we could buy 4 of these and see whether it does solve the issue. So you start at the right end. Great. Anything else?
We had implemented a program where after we just spend it
Yeah.
innovation regardless of
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. A la Google. A la Google. Yes. So give people a little bit of space in their working week to experiment. That kind of picks up on the research idea. Now, in learning and development, it's often easier to do that than in other parts of an organisation. And you can do it silently. If you're in charge and you say, us 4, I'm going to let you spend half a day a week, who's going to know? Who's going to punish it? Don't ask. Don't say, by the way, I've taken my people off the job. I wouldn't ask that question or ask permission. I just do it. And it is amazing how people with a little bit of engagement a week transforms the rest of their working week because they feel motivated. That's one of my ways into research, is just give people a little bit of time to go and do what interests them. Catalogue, and find out what they're doing, get them to report back so that you're sharing. It's not just and pursuing some notion, down to the nth degree, but create some space. I think creating space is excellent. It's true. How many? I've got my three horizon model, which I use again and again. Horizon 1 is what you're doing in this year to leverage what you've got. So, a few more of this and a few more of that. Horizon 2 is thinking about exploiting your existing resources 2 years ahead. Horizon 3 is 4 years out. How many people spend time on Horizon 3? Chief executives don't Horizon 3, and they should. You should definitely be thinking, even if you spent 20 minutes a week on Horizon 3, that 20 minutes is really well spent at the end of the year, because you've spent 10, 20 hours living in what you want to do in the future, not what you're lumbered with now. It's incredibly helpful, and that can be part of your time to spend some Horizon 3 time. What about here? What have you come up with?
Well, I'm one of those people that probably wouldn't like the IT manager.
No, I love you. I love IT people. They're great. They make the world go round. What would we do without you?
Technology.
Yeah, so you should.
It's interesting speaking here because these 2 ladies felt that they were quite startled when they went to things like this where
Yeah.
they saw very good technology and felt that their IT departments were probably going to curtail
Yeah.
what they would want.
Yeah.
And I have the opposite, where I work for a firm of lawyers who don't want to change anything
Yes,
and they
yes.
want to keep doing their jobs
Yes.
efficiently in my view.
Yes.
So
All true.
today with magazines, RSS feeds to various different sites,
Yep.
internet,
Yep.
going to conferences
Yep.
that are technology-led, being on panels where you're actually learning more about your
Yep.
subject topic to
Yep.
be on the panel,
Yep.
networking on LinkedIn,
Yep.
on Facebook.
Yep.
There is so much information, sometimes
There
it's
is.
quite difficult to assimilate it.
How do you deal with that problem of you see something, you go downstairs to floor 1, there's you think, that would just be great, and then you think, oh, I've got to persuade Barry. So how do you get around that? That's not an insignificant issue for lots of people. So how do we solve the problem? There is an interesting technology. I have to get this through the IT department before I can even begin to do it. Anyone got any? What? Yep. So you don't go to Barry and talk technology. You don't talk to Barry at all. You go to talk to someone else who says, that could be very powerful. I'll talk to Barry to make sure he helps you with that. The example I give again and again, which is, if you've heard it, I apologise. Well, in the BBC when I arrived and I said we need to move video around the organisation, and IT said, it's not designed. The network's for text. I said, it's the BBC. We're media. Yeah, we've got the video link. You know, we can put programs around, but we can't allow you to do anything but text. So the first 275 e-learning programs we developed were unutterably tedious. They were just text. And you couldn't do anything really much more than that because the whole system crashed. So, when are we going to upgrade it? No plans to do that. So IT were resolute. Greg, as Director General, used to do a briefing once a month. He used to do it weekly on paper. But once a month he'd do a video briefing. And the BBC, this is the BBC, and I kid you not, copy 2,200 VHS tapes and put them in the internal file so that everybody could look at Greg. So I'm talking, Greg is saying, this is bloody ridiculous. And he got some email from someone about a brief he'd done about 6 weeks before. It only just arrived in Shetland. And I said, well, you know, Greg, it'd be dead easy. This could go on the network. What do you mean? I said, well, you could do it live. It could be broadcast. And even if that was a bit of a problem, you could just it so people could download it. And you could have everybody in the whole place either looking at it within 5 minutes of you doing it or within an hour of you doing it. He said, how'd you do that then? So I explained all about how you need to increase the power of the network. He said, oh, that's a really good idea. Why don't we do that? I said, well, you know, I think there's some technical issues. Get the head of IT on the phone. So and he said, John, what's this about? You know, I want it now. I want it. And I could hear John go, well, you know, 6 months later, we had this incredibly powerful network sending video all around the place, which I used extensively. But I did it through Greg. I didn't do it in front, because if I'd have gone and confronted the CIO, he would have said, no, it's not possible, it's not in our plan. So they found the money for the upgrade. So you can do it if you go obliquely. The other way is to go to your suppliers and say, those people down there, and say, how could we get this trialled without interfering with our network? Because it ain't going to get put behind the firewall at the moment. And usually they've got a solution. They'll say, well, what we could do is run a virtual, blah, 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 blah. So talk to them. And sometimes they'll come up with a problem, come up with a solution is about piloting, just for a small number of people, so you can at least get it in, and then you can show people, not necessarily Barry, but the business leader, show them what's going on. They go, oh, that's really good. Then you go on, the other way. Talk to IT, yes. That is a very good way. Yes. Can you help me? Yes, that's also true. So we're parodying Barry a little bit, but Barry might be actually perfect. He might be really, really helpful. And Barry is just waiting for someone to come up and say, hey, there's this really thing that we could do. No, exactly. You know, it's not fixing people's machines because they've locked up. You know. You're absolutely right. So that is the other way, is to be nice and polite and say, can we work together on this? And often you'll get an answer that says yes. Any other brilliant solution suggestions? Yeah, go on. Yes. 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 I always say, have your presentation ready in your head 24 hours a day. You never know when you bump into someone and say, yes, but we were thinking of. And they go, oh, that's interesting. If you haven't got it in your head, you miss the opportunity. So yes, seize the opportunity. Maybe you've just got one visual which you carry in your pocket. You know, but there's like this. I just happen to have this. People are interested when you seem interested. Any other bright, splendid ideas? What about this table here? Have you got one idea? Okay. Yes. They do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Ask them to show you. I know sometimes it's a hard thing to do, but sometimes say, just show me. Show me how you do that. How do you do that stuff? It's very interesting. Yeah, some of the games are really, really intelligent and creative and very important. Yep, absolutely right. I've got a few things up on here. Like scouts. Do you know what scouts are? Scouts are your mates, and scouts are people that you ask to go find stuff out and report back. So you can be a scout for someone, they can be a scout for you. Okay? Think about scouts. You imagine even if we're not technology experts, if we mapped the technology expertise in this room, we'd have a lot more than any single individual. So find 2 or 3 scouts. Make people into scouts. You could, this exhibition is free. You could have 3 staff going around trawling and then what did you learn? What did you find? Anything interesting? And again, 3 people will always find something more interesting than just one person trying to cover the whole conference all on their own. It's really hard. So it is. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. It's true. It's true. It's true. And explain that to me. How could we use that? Don't think you're dumb because you don't understand. But you're right. You need to be informed, you need to understand the language, and you need to keep up to speed. Because this can kill you. This stuff can absolutely kill you. Right. Let's move on. Continuing development opportunities. What about that? How can you build really interesting development opportunities for people? I've got a few ideas there, so I'll just flip those back. How can you build them without costing you a large amount of money? How do you do that? Let's just do this around the room. So, how many people have got simple schemes for continuing development opportunities for your staff that don't cost you a fortune? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah, I think so. So get people, the point is get people some experience in outside organizations, charities, voluntary organizations, and be tolerant about that. Let them go early to fix something, or let them be away on a Friday once or twice a year if they're doing something across a whole weekend. And the second point about that is feedback. What have you got out of this? Have you learned anything at all? Is this worthwhile? What tips would you give someone coming in next time? So you build up expertise in generating those kinds of voluntary opportunities. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yeah. They fix it themselves. Yeah, it is. And what did Roger say this morning? That everyone has to be a self-motivated, self-directed learner. And for goodness sake, you work in the learning arena, you should be, above all, self-directed, self-motivated learners. And you should be encouraging all of your staff to be the same. But so often, it just doesn't happen. Cobbler's children. Doesn't happen. So yes, I think, and if there are tools that can help pinpoint areas that you should try to fix, then get those tools. And if you've got opportunities, like getting out there and joining another organisation and putting something back, I think that's really valuable. You can use internal secondment. Is really, even a day, maybe only a week. It doesn't have to be 6 months. You can learn a huge amount from sitting in another part of the organisation. And if you're a learning person, you're learning about the business, how the business actually operates, what makes it tick, and how you can understand your customers better by sitting with them and helping them, and perhaps even doing something useful at the same time. Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be focused on doing something useful. Better if it is. It's just getting that experience. And nobody turns down the opportunity of understanding the organisation they work in. Because if you're in learning, you're feeling slightly vulnerable anyway. You're in an environment where more and more people are joining it from inside the business, not from learning professionals. It's becoming more diverse as an employment base. Therefore, you've got to get the skills moving out. So, those kinds of things. What else? Yeah. Yes. Yep. Is it always to do with work, learning, or do you get, if someone's an expert on restoring antique clocks, would you get them to talk about that as a... No? Right. Yeah. 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 We also found that if you take, someone's reading a new business book, like Flip Thinking, for example, let's take one, just to get them saying, are you enjoying that? Oh, it's fantastic. It's a really clever idea. What about half an hour just discussing the main findings, and we can talk about how we might use this or whether it's any lasting value. That can be really powerful. It means you read it slightly differently because you think, I better know what I'm talking about. I better get this right. So you read it slightly more carefully, and then you've got that data. We all don't have to go and spend £25 buying a copy and reading it. We can get you, and most of those books, like Flip Thinking, you can get the essence of it in 20 minutes. Yes. Yes.
And you're all learning about technologies while discussing the relative merits.
Yes. Posting the stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. Capturing it. We use video a lot and instead of saying to someone, let's tabulate your knowledge, we said, tell us how you do that. Roger this morning, give me a story. Gather the stories together. And if you've got, every learning person has got a flip camera, you've all got them now, or I don't know what you've got in your bags from the conference, but flip camera is totally unobtrusive. It's an easy way to capture video. And as long as you know a little bit about the grammar of filming, and it's not complicated, so it doesn't look out of focus and awful. If it looks perfectly reasonable, it's capturable, simple edits, postable, so that you can begin to build a knowledge base for yourselves, but also for the rest of the organisation. And that's using technology, it's doing it in a dramatic way, it's sharing great stories, and it's getting involved in what makes the business tick. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. Just getting in your head a sharing mode. And I found that interesting, so would 3 or 4 other people. So let's try to work out a way of pulling that information in, gathering it, sharing it, debating it a little bit. And sometimes it goes nowhere. It doesn't matter. It's getting the brain engaged, thinking differently, thinking new, thinking innovation. Because, most of our life is caretaking in a way. We kind of manage the stuff that exists, and we have to do it well and efficiently and effectively. And what's left over, we should be about innovation, ideas, the future, third horizon. But often the caretaking is all we do. And a department full of caretakers is never going to be breaking new ground, exciting the rest of the organisation. Get away from, for as much time as you can, from that caretaking role. It's a perfectly reasonable role, but it's not a full-time role. Yeah. Give us an example. Yes. 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 Yeah, it's true. Being a learner, it's challenging. You know, I do a lot of work in Brazil. I'm learning Portuguese. It's really, really hard. I found it a nightmare, and I fail hugely often. I can't remember stuff. You know, I feel I'm doing really well, and then 2 days later it's all gone. And so you start again. I understand the traumas of learning completely new frameworks, conceptual frameworks. This is what you put people into the position of doing. IT, for example. If you're not a learner, you don't understand where they're coming from and what the issues are. So it is good to challenge yourself in a safe way. It's a kind of safe environment to do that. No one is going to fire you because it's not a brilliant PR, not a brilliant press release, are they? But you'll learn, you'll get better, pick up new skills, meet new people, just feel more part of it all. It's really important. It's a little bit of career development for you. It may be oblique, but it's still a little bit of career development. Any more? Yes? Yes. Yes. I totally agree. I think if you're building an environment that is a learning environment, then you shouldn't create an environment where people are scared of failing, scared of being seen as stupid, scared of not knowing. It's hard. It's much harder to do it than it is to say it, saying it's okay to fail. Easy to say, you've got to follow that through. What do you mean by that? So what happens when things go wrong? How do you deal with it? How do you pick up on the failure? How do you deal with the individual that has been involved? You've got to have a strategy around that. And how do you deal with someone who asks such an obvious question that they should have known, that everybody in the room absolutely knows? How do you manage that process without everyone going, breath of, sharp intake of breath? Yeah. It's, Kathy was saying in the session before this, don't just say wrong. Follow the consequences through. So, right, okay, if we did that, then what do you think is going to happen? Is that what we want to happen? Well, probably not. Right, okay. Any other options? So you don't have to say, fail. You can say, let's just take that down the road a little bit, if that's what we want to do. Look at the consequences. Okay, so temporary secondments. The MTV model. MTV, interestingly, they completely changed their learning attitude towards staff learning. What they do is they say you're not going to get we're not giving anybody any time off for any learning at all. If you want to do something, you do it in your holiday time or you do it in the evenings or weekends. But what we will do is pay the fees. So we'll pay for you to do more or less whatever you want. I think there's a 2-year payback. So if you stay 2 years, it's totally free. If you leave after a year, you have to pay half of it back, etc., etc. And what it's done is it's got something between 70 and 80% of the entire MTV staff actively involved in registered, acknowledged learning. From a position previously where they would pay for people to go to courses during the day, that was about 10%, 15%. It's gone from 15% to close to 80%. And it costs the company relatively small amount of money. It cost them less than the time that they were having to pay for. So, unbelievably, the one thing that is painful to you, which is who's going to pay for this, they sort out. The other thing that you can manage, which is managing the time, that's up to you to sort out. And you have to write some small report at the end of it to say, I was successful or why I wasn't successful. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be successful. You pay the money back. And if there's something to share from it, you have to work out a way of sharing it. So I did a presentation to my team, would be, how did you share this? Or I wrote a blog about it, or whatever it might be. But they say, it's been transformational. So by saving money, saving time, and saving on the whole infrastructure of staff development, they've taken away all the admin practically. They end up with more that's more effective. Very simple. Reflection time. This is exactly the point that you made. Create time for people to think about where they are, think about what they've achieved on a personal, team, organizational basis. We get very, very little time now to reflect and work out where we're going, work out where we've come from. And sometimes you can help people with that. There are very simple techniques where two people can work together. So I can sit with Sam and I'll just go through a few questions to help her. She can maybe go with the same questions to help me. But it's acknowledged, it's bona fide, it's legit, and it really helps gather ideas, plan for the future, makes you feel like you're growing as a human being, and everybody wants to feel like they're better now than they were the year before. They learned more, they're progressing in their job. And sometimes you need to help people understand that. It's not automatic. Oh, of course I'm doing fine. A lot of people, until they reflect, think they've just trodden water for a year. Given the chance, they realise they've made progress here, made progress there. It helped. I think I've no evidence, but I think it actually helps staff retention. Just that little bit of reflection every so often in an organisation. Yeah. Yes. You're still involved. Yeah. It's absolutely right. And in Toyota, where it's this ideas culture, they've slightly lost their way, but basically a culture of gathering ideas from all staff. If someone on the shop floor comes up with some big engineering idea that works, that person will be involved right the way through to launch. And his or her name will be associated with that idea forever, either as a plaque on the wall or somewhere, so that they understand the value of the idea and they get the kudos from having developed it. You know, my daughter, when she left university, she was a scientist. She did science research. And the reason she left it was that she would plod on doing endlessly boring experiments until they got a result. Immediately they got a result. It was taken by the senior researchers and the lecturers. And they did. So her job was just fodder to weed out all the things that didn't work. And as soon as something worked, it was just whipped away. And often that happens in organizations. You have a great idea. That's fantastic. Well done. We'll grab that and run with it. And you never see it again. And that is totally demoralizing in an organization. So you've got to build some kind of accountability for ideas and recognize innovation when it comes through. And everybody has ideas. Absolutely everybody has ideas. Some are world-shattering, some are much more modest. But it's acknowledging those ideas and allowing them to see them through. I think that's absolutely right. So the next one is self-development and research. Right? Self-development and research. In some ways, this is the essence of it all. How do you create self-developers and a research ethos in your little training department that focuses on compliance or delivering IT? It doesn't matter what it has to be. It doesn't matter what the subject is. It doesn't have to be grand scheme of things. But how can you create people who focus on self-development and research? And I would argue you can do that in McDonald's. And in some of the most successful restaurants, that's part of what makes them successful. Self-development and research. And again, Roger was saying about, I think, was it Roger saying about, no, it was Chris Bones, the guy there who works in food, saying that by giving every one of their people in their little food outlets the aspiration of being an assistant manager and planning their career development through that, they massively increase retention and massively increase motivation and customer satisfaction simply by giving people some hope of moving forward from a basically low-wage, go-nowhere job to something bigger. And a lot of people, even at high level in organizations, are in despair because they feel they're going nowhere, feel their life is, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Self-development I think, creates massive motivation. So just how we do that. Just talk amongst yourselves just for a couple of minutes about that, and then we'll come back. The clock is ticking. How long we got? Okay. Got about 5 minutes. What ideas have you got? We were talking here quite interestingly that in some ways, sometimes self-development research is seen as a bit poncy. You know, that it's seen as inappropriate maybe, or self-indulgent, or careerist. It's a way of alienating yourself from all your friends. And my point would be that if it's not collective, it's not a general environment, if it's just you saying, oh, I do personal research, I think you're probably right. It's going to be more of a hindrance than a help. So you need to create an environment where it's actually okay, and be conscious. And I was saying, what is my minimum definition of self-development is that you can do more at the end of the year than you could at the beginning, and to be aware of that. It's as simple as that. And it might only be a this much, or it might be this much, but it's being aware of that. And I guarantee that collectively, if everybody thinks like that, and they only move this much, it transforms the whole environment. The whole environment. You can have better conversations, much more willing to innovate, much more exciting workplace. I guarantee it. Try it. And if I'm wrong, come and beat me up. What about this table? What did you come up with?
We said exactly what you've just said.
Okay.
That you have to create an environment where everybody's encouraged.
Yeah.
And nobody's put down.
Yeah. It is. We want sentient beings at work. We don't want people who leave their brain at the door when they come in the morning. And so often, that's seen as acceptable, and it's acceptable in learning departments. I have come across hundreds, I think probably hundreds of people who work in learning who say, I don't have to think. I just put that course in there and I'll get that. And to me, that isn't what a learning department should be about. Who's got some ideas? Yes, let's go ahead. Yeah, go on. Yes. Yes, it's exactly. It's cultural. It is cultural. It's okay to share. It's good to share. And we respect each other, and we're all trying to help each other get better at what we do. It's only about me and my job and my promotion. Yes, and some form of recognition. And recognition does not have to be a whacking great pay rise. Recognition, if you go to IDEO, which is a creative consultancy, in their reception, painted on the wall, not stuck on the wall, are the names of people who've made exceptional contribution in the previous 3 months. Then at the end of 3 months, they whitewash the wall and they put a lot of new names on. And some of the things are, I'll give you an example. To Tracy in the finance department, who was determined that £500 invoice would be paid, underlined, and pursued until she finally got the money. So no big deal to the company. But for her, massive recognition. And out of that, you get the really cool things. Like they did a pitch to Visa, the credit card person, and the project manager came in the morning that the Visa people were coming, and she'd iced these biscuits as Visa cards. So when they came in, they said, would you like a cup of tea or coffee? Yes, please. Right, tea, coffee, right, okay. And this plate was put on the table with the Visa card. Guess if they won the contract. Guess if that was the moment they won the contract. So that went up on the wall. So it's exceptional contribution. Yes, sorry. Go on. Go, be controversial.
I guess I've been lucky to work for a number of large multinationals.
Yeah.
And the one thing that this has taught me is they will tend to have individuals develop plans or performance.
Yes. Yes, they have all of that.
And it's great.
Sometimes.
If the culture is there and you don't rely on the system.
Yes.
You can have the best development plan system
Yes.
in the world. But it's we had a conversation about this. Are you taking the time to go back weekly, monthly,
Yes, to check.
quarterly, to close the loop?
Yes.
To make sure that
I absolutely agree.
development is happening? Because you can have
You can have the process and nothing. We were talking about that. I'm guilty as much as anyone else. On Friday the 19th, in went the personal development plans. Come on, we've got to get, all right, we just put that down. What about last year? Oh, we just changed a little bit here from last year. They'll never notice. You do it because you've got to do it, and it has absolutely nothing to do with personal development. Absolutely nothing to do. It's to do with ticking boxes. Because you as a manager, you didn't fill in the personal development plans, you're in trouble. So you're right. It's got to mean something. It absolutely has to mean something. And all of the process complexities of big organizations can often mask activity rather than encourage activity. But if it's right, it's really powerful. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
the CEO of that company can come in and talk to individuals.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly right. It's true. You know, kind of like Microsoft. Personal development plan is linked intimately to their career. It's linked right through the system, so it triggers all these activities that are read by their manager, their manager's manager. It's a really interesting environment that they've built. So it means something. When you commit on there, it means something. And that means everybody's learning all the time about products, about the environment, whatever it might be. Anyone else? Yes? Hmm. Yeah.
My first boss at HSBC used to say that our job was to make the ability to leave with the desire to stay.
Yes, exactly.
It's that bit about and
Yes.
What they want to learn.
Exactly. It's exactly right. That's what you all want. You want organisations full of people who could leave tomorrow but choose to stay. And development is a really important part of it. It's a really important part. When they did a survey in the US of MBA students over 12 years, salary was only the 5th motivation. Learning, keeping skills, being relevant, ready for the next job, they were right at the top. And it's all about personal development. Yep. And recognition is linked to, that's all part of building that environment. It's not just doing it, but recognising it and celebrating it in some way. And you end up with something that really means 1 and 1 adds up to much more than 2. It really makes a huge difference in the way people feel about their work. And I don't care whether it's in, it's in some really boring environment where you say, oh, I work, and everyone goes, oh, you poor thing. You can still make that really exciting, and you can make an incredibly exciting organisation utterly tedious, where you take that away, and where people have no autonomy, no power, feel they're just rotting, even in the middle of what is supposed to be an innovative and terrific organisation. Final thoughts? Yes?
Yeah, if you want to encourage a culture of self-learning, it's really important to make sure that you can deliver what you're expected to get out of it.
Yes.
What they do, otherwise they'll lose motivation. So
Yes.
Going back to what you're saying about planning, it's really important to make sure that you've got a good eye on what the company's strategic plans are.
Yes.
So you can anticipate what the skills needed in the future are.
Yes.
And link that back to what you encourage people to
Yes.
study. Study stuff that you won't need in 5 years.
Yes.
Time.
Yeah.
No reward.
I know. And you have no power. If you talk to the senior people about future performance, future capability need, that's an interesting conversation. If you talk, we've got everyone through the compliance program this year, CEO. Okay, very good, excellent. It's not going to get you many, and it's not going to excite the department. We got through compliance. So I've got up on the board things like links with universities. Most universities will fall over themselves to talk to people in the real world. And yet virtually nobody ever does. You can get free research off universities. You can get some really interesting... They'll come in and do research for nothing for you, often. They'll do things if you ask them. Building tools for sharing, we talked about that. Accept redundancy of ideas. Not every idea is going to run. It doesn't really matter. And getting that small budget out to allow people to celebrate. We're pretty much there. So I'm going to stop. Thank you very much. Who should I give the book to? Anyone wants to... Who deserves the book? Anyone particularly want the book? Nobody. I'll take it home. You can have it. Yeah, go on that table. There we go. All right, thank you very much. The champagne awaits. I think we had a good discussion. And just do something, do something on Monday. Take this forward, even in a small way. You can really transform the quality of your learning department and therefore the quality of learning, and that will impact on the whole organisation. I promise you. I guarantee these things. Money back guarantees. Good, thanks a lot.